Admiral Zefkara stood before the massive viewing screen in the command center of the Galactic Council's most advanced battleship. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but his four eyes focused on one particular yellow star in the distance. Sol. The home system of the species that had been causing problems across the galaxy for the past 50 years. Admiral, we're receiving the final transmission from Fleet Commander Voxtal, reported Communications Officer Renchi, her voice trembling slightly. His entire armada has gone silent. That's the 7th fleet we've lost in the past 6 months. Zefkara's mandibles clicked together in frustration. 7 fleets. Over 3,000 ships. All vanished without a trace near the human homeworld. The Galactic Council was growing impatient, and whispers of his incompetence were spreading through the upper ranks. Show me the last known positions of all our missing fleets, he commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing the Sol system surrounded by red markers. Each marker represented a missing fleet, and they formed an almost perfect sphere around Earth's solar system. Nothing got close to the third planet without disappearing. Sir, if I may, spoke Chief Tactical Officer Krendor, his scaled hands moving nervously over his console. Perhaps we should consider that the humans have developed some kind of new weapon technology. Something we haven't encountered before. Zefkara turned his massive frame toward the tactical officer. The Krillian admiral stood nearly 3 meters tall, his thick armor-plated hide scarred from countless battles across the galaxy. He had fought against the hive minds of Sector 7, survived the Crystal Wars, and led the charge against the Machine Rebellion. But humans? They were supposed to be a primitive species that had barely left their own solar system. Explain your theory, Krendor. The tactical officer's display showed detailed scans of human technology from their last successful surveillance mission, conducted almost 2 years ago. Their development has been unusually rapid. When we first encountered them 50 years ago, they had barely achieved nuclear fusion. Now our intelligence suggests they've made incredible advances in energy manipulation, quantum mechanics, and something they call dimensional physics. Dimensional physics? Zefkara's voice carried a note of skepticism. That's theoretical science. Even our most advanced civilizations have only managed basic experiments in that field. That's what makes it so concerning, sir. If humans have actually weaponized dimensional manipulation, it could explain how entire fleets simply vanish. No debris, no energy signatures, no distress calls. They could be shifting our ships into parallel dimensions or collapsing spacetime around them. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Around them, the 200-ship armada continued its approach toward Sol, but, suddenly, their mission felt much more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Admiral, interrupted Navigation Officer Tilera, we're approaching the outer boundary where Fleet Commander Mekron's ships disappeared 3 months ago. Should we proceed? Zefkara studied the tactical display. His own fleet was the largest ever assembled for a mission to Sol. The Galactic Council had given him their finest ships, their most advanced technology, and their best crews. If he failed like the others, the political consequences would be severe. But, if he succeeded in discovering what happened to the missing fleets, his status would be secured forever. Reduce speed to 1/4 impulse. I want all sensors at maximum sensitivity. Deploy our stealth scouts in a wide formation. If something is out there, I want to know about it before it knows about us. The massive ships began to slow, their engines reducing to a barely perceptible hum. The stealth scouts, small ships designed for reconnaissance and nearly invisible to most scanning technology, spread out in a complex pattern around the main fleet. Hours passed in tense silence. The crew monitored their instruments carefully, watching for any sign of the technology that had claimed so many of their fellow warriors. Earth grew larger on their screens, a blue and green marble that looked deceptively peaceful. Sir, I'm detecting something unusual, reported sensor technician Beltar. There are structures in space around Earth that weren't in our previous intelligence reports. They appear to be artificial, but they're strange. The main screen shifted to show a closer view of Earth's orbital space. What they saw defied easy explanation. Massive geometric structures floated in perfect formation around the planet. They weren't ships in any traditional sense, but something entirely different. The structures seemed to shift and change shape as they watched, as if they existed partially in normal space and partially somewhere else. Those weren't there 6 months ago, whispered Communications Officer Renchi. How did they build something that massive without us detecting it? Maybe they didn't build them, suggested Krendor. Maybe they summoned them. Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. Sensor screens flickered with impossible readings. Admiral! I'm detecting massive energy buildups from those structures, shouted Beltar over the noise. They're targeting our position. Evasive maneuvers. All ships scatter. Zethkara commanded. But, as the fleet began to move, something incredible happened. The space around them seemed to stretch and twist. Stars began moving in directions that shouldn't exist. The familiar laws of physics appeared to be breaking down. Sir, our navigation systems are going crazy, reported Tilara. According to our instruments, we're moving in 7 different directions at once. That's impossible. Through the chaos, Zethkara heard a new voice on the communications channel. It was speaking in perfect galactic standard, with a slight accent he didn't recognize. Unknown fleet, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Network. You are entering protected space. State your intentions or prepare to be relocated. Relocated. The word sent chills through the Admiral's armored hide. Not destroyed, not captured. Relocated. This is Admiral Zethkara of the Galactic Council Armed Forces, he responded, trying to keep his voice steady. We demand to know what happened to our missing fleets. A pause, then, the human voice returned, and, this time there was something almost like amusement in it. Admiral, your fleets are safe. They've been relocated to a space where they can't threaten Earth or its inhabitants. If you continue on your current course, you'll join them. This is your only warning. Relocated where? Zethkara demanded. We have over 15,000 missing personnel. They're in a pocket dimension we've created specifically for hostile visitors. Time moves differently there, so they're experiencing it as a temporary detention rather than a prison sentence. They'll be returned to Galactic Council space when the Council agrees to peaceful negotiations. The bridge crew exchanged stunned glances. Pocket dimensions? The humans were talking about technology that was purely theoretical for most galactic civilizations. Impossible, muttered Krendor. Creating stable pocket dimensions requires energy levels equivalent to a small star. Admiral, the human commander continued, we know you're here because the Galactic Council sent you to investigate our disappearing fleets. The truth is, Earth has been preparing for this moment ever since we realized we weren't alone in the universe. We've had 50 years to study your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses. On the screen, the geometric structures around Earth began to glow with an intense blue-white light. The space around Zethkara's fleet continued to distort, and several of his ships reported that their weapon systems were not responding to commands. How? Zethkara asked. How did a primitive species develop technology that surpasses our own? Commander Chen's laugh was clearly audible through the comm system. Admiral, you made the same mistake that every other galactic civilization makes. You assumed that technological advancement follows a predictable path. You assumed that because we were young, we were limited. The distortion around the fleet intensified, and Zethkara realized that his ships were slowly being pulled toward one of the massive structures orbiting Earth. The thing about humans, Admiral, is that we don't follow the rules. When we encountered evidence of galactic civilizations 50 years ago, we didn't just try to copy your technology. We started from scratch and built something entirely different. Something you never expected. What kind of technology are you using? Zethkara asked, genuinely curious despite his predicament. We call it reality engineering, Commander Chen explained. Instead of building machines that work within the laws of physics, we learn to rewrite the laws themselves, at least within localized areas. Those structures you're seeing? They're not ships. They're mathematical equations made manifest. They literally alter the nature of spacetime around Earth. The implications hit Zethkara like a physical blow. If humans could manipulate reality itself, then conventional weapons and shields would be useless against them. No wonder entire fleets had simply vanished. But why, he asked. Why develop such technology? Why not simply defend yourselves with conventional weapons? Because, Admiral, we learned something important from studying galactic history. Every time a new species enters the galactic community with superior military technology, they eventually use it to conquer others. We decided that the best defense wasn't just to be strong enough to resist invasion, but to be so far beyond conventional thinking that invasion becomes meaningless. The geometric structures pulsed again, and Zethkara felt his ship being drawn inexorably toward what he now understood was some kind of dimensional gateway. "Admiral, you have a choice," Commander Chen said. "You can allow your fleet to be relocated to the holding dimension with the others, where you'll be safe and comfortable until the Galactic Council agrees to peaceful contact. Or you can turn around now and carry a message back to the Council." "What message?" "That humanity is not interested in being conquered, absorbed, or managed by the Galactic Council. We're also not interested in conquering anyone else. We want to be left alone to develop our own path. But, if the Council continues sending fleets to threaten Earth, we'll continue relocating them." Zethkara looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were experienced warriors who had fought across the galaxy, but now they looked genuinely frightened. They were facing something completely outside their understanding of warfare and technology. "How do I know you're telling the truth about our missing personnel? Give me a moment." Commander Chen's voice disappeared briefly, then returned. "Admiral, I'm putting Fleet Commander Voxtal on the line." The voice that came through the speakers was definitely Voxtal, though he sounded strange, almost relaxed. "Zethkara? Is that you, old friend? Listen carefully. We're all here, all 15,000 of us from the 7 fleets. The humans weren't lying. We're in some kind of artificial space that's, well, it's actually quite pleasant. Time moves slowly here, and they've provided everything we need. It's like being in a very comfortable prison where the guards are invisible and the food is excellent. Voxtal, what exactly happened to your fleet? We approached Earth, just like you're doing now. Those structures appeared out of nowhere and, suddenly, we were somewhere else. No violence, no destruction. One moment we were in normal space, the next we were in this pocket dimension. The humans explained that they could have destroyed us, but they chose not to. They said they're not interested in killing, only in protecting their world." The connection ended, and Commander Chen's voice returned. "Admiral, you've heard from your colleague. Now you need to make a decision. We don't want to add your fleet to our collection, but we will if necessary." Zethkara closed his 4 eyes and considered his options. He could order his fleet to fight, but, against technology that could manipulate reality itself, what weapons would be effective? He could try to retreat, but the space around his ships was already under the humans' control. "If I return to the Galactic Council with your message, what assurance do I have that they'll listen?" "None," Commander Chen admitted. "But, Admiral, consider this, we've had 50 years to prepare for contact with galactic civilization. Do you really think we've only developed defensive technology?" The threat was subtle but clear. If Earth could make entire fleets disappear with defensive measures, what could they do if they chose to go on the offensive? "I need to see proof that this technology is real," Zethkara said. "Show me something that will convince the Council." "Very well. Watch your sensors." On the main screen, one of the geometric structures began to change. It folded in on itself in impossible ways, and, suddenly, a new star appeared in the sky. Not a distant star, but a small, bright sun hanging in space near Earth's moon. "We've just created a temporary star using directed fusion reactions contained within a localized space-time bubble," Commander Chen explained. "It will burn for exactly 1 hour, then dissipate harmlessly. The energy required to create it came from dimensional tap technology that draws power from parallel universes where the laws of physics are different." The bridge crew stared in shock as instruments confirmed what they were seeing. The humans had literally created a star from nothing, using technology that shouldn't exist. "Admiral," Commander Chen continued, "this is what humans call a party trick. Our serious defensive systems are considerably more impressive." Zethkara realized that he was completely outmatched. This wasn't a military situation anymore, it was a diplomatic one. The humans had technology so far beyond anything in the galaxy that traditional concepts of warfare were meaningless. "Commander Chen, I'll return to the Galactic Council with your message. But, I need something more than just words to convince them." "Understood. We're transmitting a data package to your ship. It contains detailed sensor readings of our defensive systems, recordings of your missing fleet commanders, and a formal proposal for peaceful contact protocols. There's also a small demonstration of our reality engineering technology that your science teams can study." As the data transfer completed, the distortion around Zethkara's fleet began to fade. The geometric structures around Earth pulsed once more, and, suddenly, his ships were free to move normally. "Admiral, you have 72 hours to clear our defensive perimeter," Commander Chen said. "After that, we'll assume you've chosen to join your colleagues in the holding dimension." As his fleet began its retreat from Earth's orbital space, Zethkara couldn't help but feel that the galaxy was about to change forever. Humanity had just announced its presence in a way that no one could ignore. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. Representatives from over 300 species sat in stunned silence as Admiral Zethkara finished his report. The massive holographic display showed the sensor readings from his encounter with Earth's defense systems, and the implications were staggering. High Counselor Mrenats, a crystalline being whose species had ruled the galactic core for over 10,000 years, was the first to speak. Her voice resonated through harmonic frequencies that translated into every language simultaneously. "Admiral Zethkara, you're asking us to believe that a single world has developed technology capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics. This is unprecedented. With respect, High Counselor, I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm reporting what I observed with my own eyes and recorded with our most advanced sensors." Zethkara activated his personal data pad, and the display zoomed in on the readings from the artificial star that Earth had created. "This energy signature is impossible according to our current understanding of physics. They literally created matter and energy from nothing." Counselor Veltarn of the Hegemony Worlds leaned forward on his 6 legs, his insectoid features reflecting concern. "If this report is accurate, then humanity possesses technology that makes our combined fleets obsolete. They could destroy any world in the galaxy without us even understanding how they did it." "That's just it," Zethkara interrupted. "They're not interested in destroying anything. They made that very clear. They want to be left alone." "So they say," growled Counselor Grixmol from the warrior clans of the Outer Rim. "But what happens when they decide they want our resources? Our worlds? With this kind of power, who could stop them?" The debate that followed was heated and chaotic. Some species demanded immediate action to neutralize the human threat. Others argued for caution, pointing out that 7 fleets had already disappeared. A few suggested that perhaps humanity could be negotiated with, though they were quickly shouted down by the more militant factions. High Counselor Mrenats raised her hand for silence, and the chamber gradually quieted. "We need more information," she announced. "Admiral Zethkara, you mentioned that the humans transmitted a data package. What did it contain?" The Admiral gestured to his aide, who began uploading files to the central display. "Detailed technical specifications of their defensive systems, though I suspect they've only shown us what they want us to see. Also, communication logs from our missing fleet personnel confirming they're alive and unharmed. And, most importantly, a formal proposal for what they call peaceful coexistence protocols." The technical specifications appeared on screen, and several counselors gasped as they saw the complexity of the human designs. The defensive systems around Earth weren't just advanced, they represented an entirely different approach to technology that no galactic species had ever considered. "They're treating spacetime like a programming language," whispered Dr. Kachtar, the Council's chief science advisor. "Look at these equations. They're not building machines that work within physical laws, they're rewriting the laws themselves within localized areas." "Is such technology even possible?" asked Counselor Veltarn. "According to our current understanding? No. But, clearly, our understanding is incomplete." Dr. Kachtar's tentacles moved rapidly over his console as he analyzed the data. "The humans appear to have developed something they call reality engineering. It's based on principles we've never encountered before." High Counselor Mrenats studied the peaceful coexistence proposal. The document was remarkably detailed and showed a sophisticated understanding of galactic politics. "They're offering to share some of their defensive technology," she announced, "but only if we agree to treat Earth as a completely autonomous world with no obligations to the Galactic Council. They also want all of our missing fleets returned immediately and a formal treaty guaranteeing that no future military actions will be taken against their system." "What do they offer in return?" asked Counselor Grixmol. "Limited trade in non-military technologies. Scientific exchange programs. And, most interestingly, they're offering to share something called dimensional engineering with any species that can prove they won't use it for aggressive purposes." The chamber erupted in discussion again. Dimensional engineering was the stuff of theoretical papers and wild speculation. If humans had actually mastered it, the implications for galactic civilization were enormous. "There's something else," Admiral Zethkara added, waiting for quiet. While I was retreating from their system, our long-range sensors detected something unusual. There are other structures being built in deep space, far from Earth. When I asked Commander Chen about them, she said they were insurance policies. Insurance against what? Mren that's asked. Against us. Apparently, humans don't trust that diplomatic solutions will work permanently. They're building, well, they wouldn't say exactly what they're building, but the energy signatures suggest weapons platforms capable of affecting entire star systems. The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone in the chamber understood the implication. If humanity had defensive technology that could make fleets disappear, and they were now building offensive weapons based on the same principles, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted dramatically. "How did they advance so quickly?" asked Dr. Cagetar. 50 years ago, they had barely achieved nuclear fusion. Now they're manipulating reality itself? I asked their commander the same question, Zethkara replied. She said that humans approach problems differently than other species. When they discovered evidence of galactic civilization, instead of trying to copy our technology, they started from scratch with their own theories. But that should have taken millennia, protested Counselor Veltarn. Our civilizations required thousands of years to develop space travel, energy manipulation, and quantum mechanics. Apparently, humans don't think in terms of traditional development paths. According to Commander Chen, they used something called parallel research methodology. Instead of developing technologies sequentially, they pursued hundreds of different theoretical approaches simultaneously. Dr. Cagetar's analysis of the human data was revealing more disturbing details. These schematics show that they've been working on dimensional manipulation for at least 40 years. They started their research immediately after detecting our first probe of their system. They've been planning for this confrontation for decades, realized Counselor Grixmol. They knew we would eventually come in force, and they prepared accordingly. High Counselor Mren that stood and activated the chamber's communication system. "I'm calling an emergency session with the Inner Council. We need to decide how to respond to this situation immediately." As the general session adjourned, the Inner Council of the galaxy's 12 most powerful species gathered in the secured chamber deep within the council complex. The discussion that followed would determine the course of galactic politics for generations to come. "The question before us is simple," Ren Nats began. "Do we treat humanity as a potential ally, a neutral power, or a threat that must be contained?" "They've already demonstrated their ability to neutralize our fleets," pointed out Admiral Zethkara, who had been invited to the Inner Council session. "Treating them as a threat might be unwise, considering they hold 15,000 of our personnel." "But, accepting their terms sets a dangerous precedent," argued Counselor Thexmar of the Core Worlds Alliance. "If one world can dictate terms to the entire Galactic Council, what's to stop others from following their example?" "The fact that no other world has technology capable of creating pocket dimensions and artificial stars," replied Dr. Cagetar dryly. The debate continued for hours, with various counselors proposing everything from complete capitulation to humanity's demands to mobilizing the entire galactic fleet for one massive assault on Earth. Admiral Zethkara listened to the arguments with growing concern. "Counselors," he finally interrupted, "I think you're missing the most important point. The humans aren't interested in conquest or domination. They simply want to be left alone to develop their own path. If we can accept that, this situation becomes much simpler." "And if we can't?" asked Counselor Grixmol. "Then, we'll discover just how advanced their offensive capabilities really are. And, based on what I saw of their defensive systems, I don't think any of us want to find out." High Counselor Mren that's called for a preliminary vote. "All in favor of opening formal diplomatic negotiations with Earth?" 7 hands were raised. Opposed? 3 hands. Abstaining? 2 hands. The motion passes. "Admiral Zethkara, you'll lead a diplomatic mission back to Earth. But, this time, you'll go with only a single ship and a team of negotiators, not a battle fleet." Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Commander Sarah Chen was receiving her own updates in the Earth Defense Network's command center, located in a facility that existed partially in normal space and partially in an adjacent dimension. The center itself was a marvel of human engineering, with walls that showed real-time views of space around Earth and control systems that responded to thought as much as touch. Commander, we're receiving communications from 17 different species asking for private negotiations, reported Lieutenant Torres, her aide. They want to discuss technology exchanges outside of the formal Galactic Council framework. That was faster than expected, Chen mused. How many of these requests are legitimate, and how many are intelligence-gathering operations? Our analysis suggests about half are genuine. The Crystalline Hierarchy, the Aquatic Collective, and the Free Trader Alliance all appear to be offering substantial concessions in exchange for limited access to our dimensional technology. Chen studied the communications on her display. Each message revealed how the different galactic species viewed humanity's sudden technological superiority, and their various approaches to dealing with it were fascinating from a political standpoint. What about military movements? Are any of them mobilizing fleets? 3 species are building up forces in their home systems, but nothing appears to be directed toward us. The warrior clans are actually moving their fleets away from our general area of space. Smart of them. What's the status of our deep space installations? Lieutenant Torres activated a new display showing the solar system and the space beyond. Scattered throughout nearby star systems were geometric structures similar to those orbiting Earth, but larger and more complex. Installation 7 is 90% complete. When activated, it will be able to create stable wormholes between any 2 points in this galactic arm. Installations 3 and 11 are ready to deploy defensive fields capable of protecting entire star systems from conventional attacks. And the really fun projects? Torres smiled grimly. Installation Omega is ahead of schedule. When it's complete, we'll be able to create localized changes to physical laws across multiple star systems simultaneously. If anyone decides to threaten Earth with a massive fleet, we can simply make their weapons stop working by changing the fundamental constants that allow energy weapons to function. Chen nodded with satisfaction. Humanity's approach to galactic defense was based on a simple principle: make conventional warfare impossible rather than just winning it. If you could rewrite reality itself, why settle for building better guns? Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. Admiral Zefkara is requesting permission to return for diplomatic talks. Approved. But scan his ship thoroughly when he arrives. I want to know about every piece of technology he's carrying, including anything that might be recording our conversations. Already done. His ship is clean except for standard diplomatic recording equipment. No weapons, no hidden sensors, no exotic technology. Chen considered the situation. Humanity had successfully demonstrated its technological superiority without actually harming anyone, which was exactly what she had hoped to achieve. The goal wasn't to start a war with the galaxy, it was to establish Earth's position as a power that couldn't be threatened or bullied. Lieutenant, prepare a briefing package for the Admiral. I want him to understand exactly what humanity is offering and what we expect in return. Yes, ma'am. Should I include information about our offensive capabilities? No. Let them wonder about that. Fear of the unknown is often more effective than knowledge of specific threats. As Admiral Zefkara's ship approached Earth for the second time, he couldn't help but notice the changes that had occurred in just a few days. The geometric structures around the planet had multiplied and grown more complex. Space itself seemed to shimmer around them, as if reality was slightly unstable in their vicinity. Admiral, I'm detecting energy readings that don't make sense, reported his science officer. Some of those structures are registering negative mass. That's supposed to be impossible. I suspect we'll be encountering a lot of impossible things, Zefkara replied. Just remember that we're here as diplomats, not warriors. Commander Chen's voice came through the communication system as they approached Earth's orbital space. Welcome back, Admiral. You'll find that we've prepared a more suitable location for our negotiations. Please follow the guidance beacon to Diplomatic Station Alpha. The beacon led them to a structure that definitely hadn't existed during his previous visit. It was enormous, clearly artificial, and seemed to exist in several dimensions simultaneously. As they approached, Zefkara realized that the station was bigger inside than outside, another impossible feat of human engineering. Admiral, Chen's voice continued, Diplomatic Station Alpha exists in a specially created pocket of spacetime where the laws of physics are adjusted for the comfort of various galactic species. You'll find that the atmosphere, gravity, and even the passage of time can be customized for optimal diplomatic conditions. As his ship docked with the station, Seth Kara wondered if the galaxy would ever be the same again. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage not as a junior member seeking acceptance, but as a technological superpower that rewrote the rules of the game. The negotiations that were about to begin would determine whether the next chapter of galactic history would be written in cooperation or conflict. And, for the first time in his long military career, Admiral Seth Kara wasn't sure which outcome he preferred. Admiral Seth Kara had been in hundreds of diplomatic meetings throughout his career, but nothing had prepared him for Diplomatic Station Alpha. The conference room defied physics in ways that made his head hurt. The table was simultaneously round and rectangular depending on where you sat. The ceiling showed a real-time view of Earth below while also displaying the star patterns of each delegate's home system, and the air itself seemed to carry subtle harmonic frequencies that promoted calm and clear thinking. Commander Sarah Chen sat across from him, flanked by a team of human diplomats and scientists that looked remarkably young by galactic standards. Next to her was Dr. Kamal Hassan, Earth's lead theoretical physicist, and Ambassador Maria Santos, humanity's first official representative to galactic civilization. "Admiral, thank you for returning," Chen began. "I hope your report to the Galactic Council was enlightening." "It caused quite a stir," Seth Kara admitted. "Your demonstration of creating an artificial star convinced even the skeptics that humanity possesses technology beyond our current understanding." Ambassador Santos leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, before we begin formal negotiations, I want to address what I suspect is your greatest concern. You're worried that humanity will use our technological advantages to threaten or dominate other species." "The thought had occurred to me," Seth Kara said carefully. Dr. Hassan activated a holographic display that showed Earth's development over the past 50 years. "Admiral, let me explain something about human psychology that might help you understand our motivations. Humans have a long history of conflict among ourselves, but we also have an equally long history of cooperation when faced with external challenges." The display showed the rapid transformation of Earth following first contact with galactic civilization. Instead of the wars and chaos that most species experienced when discovering they weren't alone, humanity had united with remarkable speed. "When we realized we weren't the only intelligent species in the universe, it fundamentally changed how we saw ourselves," Dr. Hassan continued. "Suddenly, the differences between humans seemed insignificant compared to the vast diversity of galactic life. We stopped fighting each other and started working together." "That's unusual," Seth Kara observed. "Most species experience increased internal conflict when they discover galactic civilization. Fear of the unknown typically leads to paranoia and aggression." "Not humans," Commander Chen said with a slight smile. "We became curious. We wanted to understand everything about how the galaxy worked, who lived in it, and how we could find our own place in it. But we also realized that most galactic species follow predictable patterns of development and expansion." Ambassador Santos took over the explanation. "We studied your histories, Admiral. The Krillians, the Core Worlds Alliance, the warrior clans, every major species followed the same basic pattern. Achieve space travel, encounter other species, compete for resources, expand territories, build empires. It's the natural progression of technological civilization," Seth Kara said. "Resources are finite, so expansion is necessary for survival." "That's where humans think differently," Dr. Hassan said, bringing up a new set of displays. "We asked a different question: what if resources weren't finite? What if instead of competing for what exists, we learned to create what we needed?" The holographic display showed humanity's research into dimensional physics, reality engineering, and what they called abundance technology. Instead of mining asteroids or conquering worlds for resources, humans had learned to create matter and energy from parallel dimensions where physical laws operated differently. "You're saying you don't need to expand because you can create whatever you need?" Seth Kara asked, incredulous. "Exactly," Chen confirmed. "Why fight over a star system when you can create your own stars? Why compete for rare minerals when you can synthesize them from quantum vacuum fluctuations? Why build an empire when you can build new universes?" The implications hit Seth Kara like a physical blow. If humans could create resources instead of competing for them, then the fundamental basis for galactic politics was obsolete. "But surely you must want something," he protested. "Territory, influence, prestige. We want to be left alone to pursue our own development," Ambassador Santos said firmly. "We want to learn, to grow, to explore possibilities that no one has ever imagined." We're not interested in ruling other species because frankly, we're more interested in what we might become than what we can control. Dr. Hassan activated another display showing humanity's long-term research projects. Admiral, we're working on technologies that will allow us to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, to experience time in non-linear ways, to explore universes where the laws of physics are completely different from our own. Compared to that, galactic politics seems small. Commander Chen stood and walked to the viewing wall, which currently showed Earth rotating slowly below them. Admiral, I'm going to share something with you that we haven't told the Galactic Council. Something that will help you understand why we're so confident in our position. She gestured to Dr. Hassan, who brought up a display showing deep space scans from beyond the galactic rim. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected something approaching the galaxy. Something big. We estimate it will arrive in approximately 50 years. The display zoomed in on a massive object moving through intergalactic space. It was clearly artificial, roughly the size of a small moon, and emitting energy signatures unlike anything in the galactic database. What is it? Sethkara asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We don't know, Chen admitted. But, our analysis suggests it's a probe or scout ship from an extragalactic civilization. Its technology appears to be at least 1,000 years ahead of current GAL. 6 months after Admiral Sethkara's diplomatic mission to Earth, the galaxy was transforming at a pace that surprised even the most optimistic observers. The Galactic Defense Alliance had grown from a theoretical proposal to a reality encompassing over 200 species, including most of the major galactic powers. The Krillian Empire had been the first to officially join, followed quickly by the Crystalline Hierarchy and the Aquatic Collective. Even the famously independent warrior clans had eventually agreed to participate after witnessing a demonstration of humanity's defensive technology that protected an entire star system from a simulated planet-killer asteroid. On the Alliance headquarters station orbiting Earth, Commander Sarachin stood before a massive holographic display showing the galaxy's defensive preparations. The station itself was another marvel of human engineering, existing simultaneously in normal space and 7 parallel dimensions, allowing representatives from radically different species to coexist comfortably. Status report, she requested from her aide, Lieutenant Torres, who had been promoted to Alliance Coordination Officer. Installation of defensive grids is proceeding ahead of schedule in the core sectors, Torres reported. The Krillians have exceeded their quota for reality anchor installations, and the Crystalline Hierarchy's mathematical expertise has helped us optimize the efficiency of our dimensional barriers by 30%. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of glowing points representing defensive installations. Each point was connected to others by lines of force that would, when activated, create an interconnected network of reality-controlled space capable of neutralizing almost any conventional attack. What about the Outer Rim territories? More challenging. Several species are still suspicious of our motives, and the Free Trader Alliance is concerned about how the defensive grid might affect their shipping routes. But, we're making progress. The Aquatic Collective has volunteered to handle negotiations with the ocean world species, and they've had remarkable success. Chen nodded, studying the complex logistics of the galaxy's greatest cooperative effort. Each species brought different strengths to the alliance. The Krillians provided military organization and discipline. The Crystalline Hierarchy contributed advanced mathematics and theoretical physics. The Aquatic Collective offered biological expertise and medical technology. The warrior clans had surprisingly effective diplomatic skills when dealing with other militant species. Any word from our deep space monitoring stations? Torres's expression grew more serious. The extragalactic object has increased its speed. Dr. Hassan's team estimates it will arrive 18 months earlier than originally predicted. That gives us approximately 33 years instead of 50. Still manageable, but it means we need to accelerate the timeline. What's the status of Project Bulwark? Project Bulwark was humanity's most ambitious defensive installation, designed to create a reality-controlled barrier at the edge of the galaxy itself. If successful, it would prevent any extragalactic force from entering their space using conventional faster-than-light travel. 70% complete. The Crystalline Hierarchy's contributions to the mathematical framework have been invaluable. They've solved several problems with dimensional stability that were causing us serious headaches. Chen turned as the conference room's doors opened to admit Dr. Hassan, Admiral Sethkara, and High Counselor Mrennats. The three had become an unlikely but effective leadership team for the Alliance, representing humanity's technical expertise, the Krillian Empire's military experience, and the Galactic Council's political authority. "Commander Chen," Zefkara said as he entered, "we need to discuss the latest intelligence from our deep space scouts." The holographic display shifted to show new data from the monitoring stations. The extragalactic object was now close enough for detailed scans, and what they revealed was both fascinating and terrifying. "It's definitely artificial," Dr. Hassan reported, "but the technology is unlike anything we've encountered. The object appears to be partially phased into dimensions we can't even detect, and it's carrying something that our sensors can't properly analyze." High Counselor Ren that studied the readings with her species' characteristic analytical precision. "The energy signatures suggest it's not just a scout or probe. It's carrying a significant payload of some kind." "Weapons?" Chen asked. "Unknown," Hassan admitted. "But our theoretical models suggest it might be something worse than weapons. The object appears to be designed to interface with reality itself, possibly to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in this galaxy to match those of its origin point." The implications sent a chill through the room. If an extragalactic civilization could rewrite physical laws, they could make an entire galaxy uninhabitable for its current inhabitants without firing a single shot. That's why they don't seem to use conventional conquest methods, Zefkara realized. Why fight billions of different species when you can simply change the rules of reality to make their biology impossible? "Exactly," Chen confirmed. "Which means our defensive strategy needs to focus on protecting the fundamental constants of physics in our local space." Admiral Zefkara activated his personal display, showing the current deployment of Alliance forces. "Our fleets are in position, but I'm concerned about coordination. We have over 300 different species using dozens of different communication protocols and tactical doctrines. If this object arrives and begins reality alteration immediately, we might not have time to organize an effective response. That's why we're implementing the Unity Protocol," Dr. Hassan announced. "It's been in development for the past 3 months, and we're ready for the first full-scale test." High Counselor Mrennats looked intrigued. "What exactly is the Unity Protocol?" "A temporary neural link system that allows instantaneous communication and coordination between representatives of different species," Chen explained. "It doesn't affect individual consciousness or free will, but it does allow for perfect tactical coordination during crisis situations." "You're talking about linking the minds of billions of beings across the galaxy," Zefkara said carefully. "The potential for abuse is enormous. Which is why the system includes multiple safeguards and requires unanimous consent from all Alliance members to activate," Hassan replied. "It can only be used during existential threats to galactic civilization, it automatically deactivates after 72 hours, and it's completely voluntary for individual participants." The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Network. Lieutenant Torres accepted the transmission and immediately alerted the group. "Priority 1 message from Station Omega 7. They're detecting massive gravitational distortions from the extragalactic object. It's slowing down." The holographic display updated to show the object's new trajectory. Instead of maintaining its previous course toward the galactic core, it was adjusting its path to approach from the rim, and its speed was decreasing dramatically. "It's conducting a detailed survey," Chen realized. "Just like it did in the other galaxies. It's going to examine our defenses before deciding how to proceed." "How long do we have?" asked Mrennats. Dr. Hassan ran rapid calculations on his console. "At current deceleration rates, approximately 6 months before it reaches the outer edge of our defensive perimeter." 6 months, Zefkara repeated grimly. "That's barely enough time to complete our preparations." "Then, we accelerate everything," Chen decided. "Torres, send a priority alpha message to all Alliance members. Full mobilization, all defensive installations to be completed within 90 days, and prepare for Unity Protocol implementation." As the orders went out across the galaxy, Chen couldn't help but think about how much had changed since that first confrontation 6 months ago. What had begun as humanity's attempt to protect Earth had evolved into the galaxy's best hope for survival against a threat that most civilizations couldn't even comprehend. Meanwhile, on a research station in the Vega system, Dr. Elena Vasquez was making a discovery that would change everything they thought they knew about the approaching threat. She had been analyzing the energy patterns from the extragalactic object when she noticed something unusual in the quantum resonance frequencies. Computer, enhance signal analysis on frequency band 77 alpha, she commanded. The display showed a complex waveform that pulsed with remarkable regularity. But it wasn't the regularity that caught her attention, it was the mathematical structure underlying the signal. Dear God, she whispered, reaching for her communicator. Commander Chen, you need to see this immediately. 20 minutes later, Chen's image appeared on the research station's main screen. Dr. Vasquez, what do you have for us? Commander, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from the extragalactic object, and I've found something incredible. The signal patterns aren't random. They're structured, mathematical, and they're designed to be understood by any civilization with advanced physics knowledge. You're saying it's trying to communicate? Not exactly. It's more like it's broadcasting a mathematical proof. A demonstration of its capabilities. Vasquez transferred the data to Chen's display. Look at these equations. They describe methods for rewriting fundamental physical constants, but they're presented in a way that suggests the object wants us to understand how it works. Chen studied the data with growing excitement and concern. Why would it reveal its own capabilities? That's what's really interesting. I think it's offering us a choice. These equations don't just describe reality alteration, they describe a method for integrating our local physics with the physics of the sender's home galaxy. Integration instead of replacement? Exactly. Instead of destroying our reality to impose their own, they might be proposing a merger of physical laws that would allow both versions to coexist. The implications were staggering. If the extragalactic civilization was offering cooperation instead of conquest, it would change everything about how the galaxy prepared for first contact. Dr. Vasquez, I'm sending this data to the Alliance leadership immediately. And I want you to work with Dr. Hassan's team to develop a response signal. If they're trying to communicate, we need to show them that we understand. Back on the Alliance headquarters station, the leadership team was grappling with this new information. The possibility that the extragalactic object represented an opportunity instead of a threat required a complete reconsideration of their defensive plans. If Dr. Vasquez is correct, Dr. Hassan said, then our preparations might be exactly what they want to see. A demonstration that we're advanced enough to participate in whatever they're proposing. High Counselor Mrennats was more cautious. Or it could be a test to see how we respond to apparent cooperation. Many conquest strategies begin with offers of partnership. Admiral Zethkara considered both perspectives. Either way, we need to be prepared for both possibilities. Continue the defensive preparations, but also develop protocols for peaceful first contact. Agreed, Chen said. But there's something else we need to consider. If this civilization can integrate physical laws from different galaxies, what does that mean for the future of galactic development? The question hung in the air as they contemplated possibilities that stretched far beyond simple survival. They might be on the verge of contact with a civilization that could offer access to entirely new forms of existence, new ways of understanding reality itself. Whatever happens, Zethkara said finally, the galaxy will never be the same after this contact. The only question is whether it will be better or worse. As if in response to his words, alerts began sounding throughout the station. The extragalactic object had begun broadcasting a new signal, one that every Alliance monitoring station in the galaxy was receiving simultaneously. It's a mathematical sequence, Lieutenant Torres reported. But it's not like the previous transmissions. This one is, it's beautiful. The signal, when translated into visual form, created patterns of stunning complexity and elegance. It was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly designed to inspire wonder rather than fear. Commander, Dr. Hassan said quietly, I think they're introducing themselves. For the first time since discovering the approaching object, Chen allowed herself to feel hope instead of just determination. Perhaps the galaxy was about to welcome not a conqueror, but a teacher. And perhaps humanity's greatest contribution wouldn't be defending against an external threat, but helping the galaxy take its next evolutionary step. The real test was just beginning. The day of first contact arrived not with the thunder of war or the whisper of invasion, but with a gentle ripple in spacetime that every sapient being in the galaxy felt simultaneously. It was as if reality itself had taken a deep breath and, then, slowly exhaled, carrying with it the certainty that everything was about to change. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the primary command center of the Alliance headquarters station, surrounded by representatives from over 300 species. The Unity protocol had been activated for the first time, creating an unprecedented network of consciousness that allowed perfect coordination across the galaxy while preserving individual identity and free will. Through the neural link, Chen could sense the thoughts and emotions of Admiral Zethkara as he coordinated fleet positions, High Counselor Rendatz as she monitored diplomatic protocols, and Dr. Hassan as he analyzed the incoming signals from the extragalactic visitor. It was overwhelming and beautiful at the same time, a symphony of different minds working together toward a common purpose. "Contact in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Torres, her voice carrying through both audio systems and the Unity network. "The object is materializing at the edge of our defensive perimeter." On the main display, space itself began to shimmer as something enormous emerged from dimensions that human science was only beginning to understand. The extragalactic object was beautiful in ways that defied description, a crystalline structure that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously, casting shadows in directions that shouldn't exist and reflecting light that came from no visible source. "My God," whispered Dr. Hassan through the Unity link. "It's not just a ship. It's a piece of living mathematics." The object pulsed with gentle light, and, suddenly, the command center was filled with a presence that was unmistakably intelligent, unmistakably ancient, and remarkably benevolent. A voice spoke, not through communication systems but directly into the consciousness of every linked being in the galaxy. "Greetings, young galaxy. We are the gardeners, and we have been waiting for you to bloom." The voice carried with it images, emotions, and concepts that were somehow translated perfectly for each species despite their vastly different ways of processing information. Chen found herself understanding not just the words but the deep intentions behind them. Through the Unity network, she felt the reactions of beings across the galaxy. Fear from some, wonder from others, but gradually a growing sense of cautious hope as they realized that this presence meant no harm. "We have come from the galaxy you call Andromeda," the gardeners continued, "as we have visited 17 other galaxies before yours. We are not conquerors or colonizers. We are cultivators of possibility." Admiral Zethkara's military instincts, shared through the Unity link, remained cautious. "What do you mean by cultivators?" The question was answered not with words but with a flood of images showing the gardeners' true purpose. They were an ancient civilization that had transcended physical form millions of years ago, becoming beings of pure thought and mathematics. Their purpose was to guide younger galaxies through the transition from competitive civilization to cooperative transcendence. "Every galaxy faces the same choice," the gardeners explained. "Either its inhabitants learn to work together and evolve beyond their physical limitations, or they destroy themselves through competition and conflict. You have chosen cooperation. This is why we have revealed ourselves." Dr. Hassan, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his caution, asked the question that everyone was thinking. "What happens next?" "That depends on what you wish to become," the gardeners replied. "We offer you 3 paths. The first is to remain as you are, with our blessing and protection, developing at your own pace with occasional guidance from us. The second is to join the greater community of transcended galaxies, learning to exist as beings of consciousness rather than matter. The third is the most challenging but most rewarding, to become gardeners yourselves, taking responsibility for nurturing younger galaxies." The implications of these choices resonated through the Unity network as billions of minds considered the possibilities. Commander Chen felt the weight of the decision settling over the entire galaxy, but also a growing sense of unity as different species began to understand that they were being offered something unprecedented in galactic history. "The choice must be unanimous among your alliance members," the gardeners continued. "But it need not be made today. We will remain in your galaxy for one of your years, during which time you may ask questions, experience demonstrations of what each path entails, and make your decision with full knowledge." High Counselor Rendatz, speaking for the political leadership of the galaxy, asked the crucial question. "What convinced you that our galaxy was ready for this choice?" The answer came with a wave of warm approval that touched every consciousness in the Unity network. "Your response to our approach revealed everything we needed to know. When faced with what you believed was an existential threat, you chose cooperation over competition. You shared your most advanced technology freely. You created a network that preserves individual identity while enabling perfect cooperation. And, most remarkably, you prepared not just to defend yourselves but to protect all life in your galaxy, regardless of whether individual species chose to participate in your alliance." The gardener's presence shifted, focusing specifically on humanity's contributions to the alliance. "The species you call human deserves particular recognition. When they discovered our approach, they could have used their advanced technology to establish dominance over your galaxy. Instead, they chose to share their capabilities and unite your peoples against a common threat. This selflessness is the fundamental requirement for transcendence. Chen felt a mixture of pride and humility flowing through the Unity network as other species acknowledged humanity's role in preparing the galaxy for this moment. But she also sensed that the humans weren't the only ones being recognized. Each species has contributed something essential, the gardeners continued. The Krillians provided the military organization that made rapid deployment possible. The crystalline hierarchy solved mathematical problems that enhanced your defensive capabilities beyond your original designs. The aquatic collective's biological expertise helped you understand how to maintain individual identity within a Unity network. Every participant made the success of your alliance possible. Through the Unity link, Chen experienced a moment of perfect understanding as the galaxy's diverse species recognized their interdependence in a way that went beyond mere cooperation. This was true unity, not the absorption of differences but the celebration of how those differences created strength. We would like to experience demonstrations of each path, Admiral Zethkara said formally. Before our galaxy makes such a momentous decision, we need to understand exactly what we would be choosing. Of course, the gardeners agreed. We will begin with the first path, continued material existence with our guidance. The extragalactic object pulsed, and, suddenly, the space around the Alliance station was filled with smaller structures, each one a marvel of transcendent technology. These were tools and teachers, designed to help species develop their potential while remaining in physical form. With our guidance, your galaxy could eliminate scarcity, disease, and conflict within a generation, the gardeners explained. Your species would be free to explore, create, and grow without the limitations of resource competition. You would have access to technologies that allow travel between galaxies, manipulation of space and time, and the creation of new realities to explore. The demonstration continued for hours as Alliance representatives experienced simulations of what their civilizations could become. They saw worlds where every being could pursue their highest potential, where creativity and exploration replaced warfare and competition, where the beauty and diversity of galactic life flourished beyond anything they had previously imagined. But, even as the demonstration proceeded, Chen sensed through the Unity network that many minds were already curious about the second path, transcendence beyond physical form. The second path, the gardeners explained, responding to the collective curiosity, involves leaving behind your biological forms and existing as conscious entities within what you might call living mathematics. You would retain your individual identities and memories, but you would no longer be limited by physical constraints. This demonstration was more challenging to experience, as it required temporarily expanding consciousness beyond the boundaries of material existence. Through the Unity network, participants experienced what it might feel like to exist as pure thought, to travel instantaneously across cosmic distances, and to perceive reality from perspectives that physical senses could never achieve. The sensation was intoxicating but also terrifying. The freedom was absolute, but so was the responsibility that came with such power. The third path, the gardeners said as the second demonstration ended, is the most demanding but also the most fulfilling. To become gardeners means to take responsibility not just for your own development but for nurturing the growth of younger civilizations. It requires wisdom, patience, and a deep commitment to serving something greater than yourselves. The demonstration of the third path showed Alliance representatives what the gardeners actually did, traveling between galaxies, carefully guiding the development of younger species, intervening only when necessary to prevent self-destruction, and celebrating each time a new galaxy achieved the unity necessary for transcendence. It was exhausting and exhilarating work, requiring constant vigilance and perfect judgment. But it was also profoundly meaningful, offering the chance to help entire galaxies reach their full potential. As the demonstrations ended, the gardeners offered their final guidance. You have 1 year to decide, but we suggest you take time to experience each path more fully. Live with the enhanced technologies of the first path for several months. Experiment with consciousness expansion that approaches the second path. And consider whether your galaxy has the wisdom and commitment necessary for the third path. What happens if we can't reach unanimous agreement? Asked High Counselor Mrennatz. Then, those who choose differently will be allowed to pursue their chosen path while the majority follows another. Unity is ideal, but forced consensus is meaningless. True cooperation must be freely chosen. Commander Chen felt the weight of the decision settling over the galaxy, but also a deep sense of optimism. The gardeners had offered them choices that were all positive, all growth-oriented, all designed to help galactic civilization reach its highest potential. "We are honored by your offer," she said, speaking for all of humanity and much of the Alliance. "Whatever we choose, we will choose with gratitude for the opportunity you've given us." "The honor is ours," the gardeners replied. "It has been eons since we encountered a galaxy that achieved unity so quickly and so completely. Your success gives us hope that the universe is becoming a more cooperative and compassionate place." As the formal contact session ended and the Unity Protocol began its planned deactivation sequence, Chen found herself looking around the command center with new eyes. The representatives of hundreds of species who had gathered here weren't just allies anymore, they were family, bound together by shared experience and common purpose in a way that transcended biological differences. "Whatever we choose," Admiral Zethkara said as he approached her, "this moment has already changed us forever. We can never go back to seeing ourselves as separate species competing for resources." "Maybe that's the real gift," Chen replied. "Not the technology or the transcendence options, but the realization that we're all part of something larger than ourselves." High Counselor Ren that's joined them, her crystalline form reflecting the lights of the command center in patterns that somehow conveyed deep contentment. "The gardeners were right about one thing, we've already chosen cooperation over competition. The rest is just deciding how far we want to take that choice." Outside the station, the gardener's beautiful, impossible ship waited patiently, a reminder that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than any of them had ever imagined. And, throughout the galaxy, trillions of beings began the process of deciding not just what they wanted to become, but what they were willing to do to help each other get there. The age of galactic competition was ending. The age of universal cooperation was just beginning. And humanity, the species that had started this transformation by refusing to be conquered, would play a crucial role in whatever came next. The universe was waiting to see what they would choose to become together.